And today we're going to outline the problems we were facing, where we wanted to go, how we did that. It was really a partnership between us internally and a couple key vendors, and our results and where we're going to go in the future. And also, when I present, I love to do cell phone polls. Some of you have probably done them before, but I just think it helps kind of break up me talking to you the whole hour, and I want to know some feedback from all of you as well. So I'm going to walk you guys through some cell phone polls. You can either use a cell phone with texting, or if you have an internet-capable device, you can use your web browser as well. And I will tell you standard text messaging rates apply, and I won't have access to your telephone number, nor will I know who gave these, but I would ask you to keep your answers clean so we don't have to run away from here. But to do this poll, it's pretty easy. You're going to send a text message, if you're doing text messaging, to the telephone number of 22333. And your keyword in the message of your text message is going to be big challenge with no spaces. And then you will put a space after that in your answer of what is your biggest challenge your institution currently faces. It can be from your perspective. It can be what you hear your president talk about, or provost, whatever the case might be. If you're going to do it through a web browser, you can go to pollev.com, type in your keyword, big challenge, no spaces. It is not case sensitive. Put a space in your answer. And as you guys answer, we'll see them roll up here on the screen. I will tell you we've done this before, and I was looking at the results. I downloaded the previous results the other day, and somebody put student flash mobs was their biggest challenge. So big worries. Budget cuts, lack of staffing, retention, that's a huge buzzword throughout higher ed right now. Lack of resources, communication. None of these sound familiar. I don't know. Quality versus quantity, that's a conversation we have as well. It's not just numbers that matter. Lack of staffing, that's actually something we're going to talk about today, how to kind of get through a staffing gap. Onboarding. Good, so you guys have the hang of these now because we're going to do a couple more throughout the presentation today. Good job, by the way. So our problems, this was something that not only I, but several people at our organization really felt. It was a tangible thing throughout Embry-Riddle worldwide at the time. Our problems were, we call it a casual enrollment management culture. And by casual, I don't mean that people weren't dedicated and devoted, because they were extraordinarily so. It was that their culture and the way they were doing business pretty much was the same as it had been for maybe 10 years or more. So it was casual in that sense, that it was very transactional, and it was very reactive. Lack of meaningful relationships. I didn't even know if we could say we really had relationships with prospects. We didn't have a team that was really working with them. It was interesting listening to Excelsior this morning. I think we had some similar issues. Very funny, by the way, 45 minutes, they weren't angry, but yeah, you know, that's just not a good way to handle business. In our case, it wasn't even the wait. It's just that we weren't replying or weren't answering. So it was not a good place to be. I remember one of the first presentations I saw Bill actually give, and he talked about prospects, and basically he's like, we're turning away business because we're not answering these people. That's a really, really bad situation to be in. And when that's the first experience that a student has with your institution, if we had that as consumers in any other industry, we would walk away and never look back. But we expect them just to keep fighting through it. So that was a huge issue that really made me cringe for a while. Even though enrollment management is not my gig, it was something that as a leadership team we took pretty seriously. Reactive admissions process, I mean, you guys know how that goes in any reactive kind of environment. You know, we're kind of just shuffling paper around as they came in. We had a lot of inefficiencies and huge, frankly, dissatisfaction with financial aid, which I'm happy to say today is a totally different environment. Big, big turnaround. But we have an internal conference every 2 years where all our campus locations and full-time faculty get together at. And that was during the opening reception. Like, I did not want to come back the next day because every other person was complaining about financial aid. I mean, not just complaining, but like really mad about it because the students were coming to them. They couldn't get a hold of anybody, so they were trying to get a hold of somebody. And these were not in-depth questions about financial aid. They were status kind of questions, and we could not answer them. The other thing that always strikes me is we are worldwide. We have it in our title. Guess what hours we operate on? 8 to 5 Eastern Time. That's great for an online learner, right? Not so much. So that was the other thing that struck me. And then weak ability at that time to really market fantastic, amazing new programs we had, especially at the graduate level. Introduced a lot of really important programs like systems engineering, project management, and we just weren't getting any word out there. Since we are niche, we do have a lot of word-of-mouth marketing, but students were talking about the programs they knew, which was basically undergraduate in aeronautics. And sometimes, you know, these strategic quotes can be a little fluffy and that type of thing, but this was really meaningful to us. We took it very serious, and we were intent on walking what we talked about. So this is our strategic commitment. Really wanted to put technology front and center and the way we leveraged it, and really made the way we're helping students a much better place. And one thing in here too is the customer support. I just want to mention, I think with technology, I often talk with our team, and some of them are here today, we can have a tendency to make things complicated pretty quickly, technically oriented people. And we think it's really cool, and then we hand it off, and people look at us like we have 4 heads or something, because it's very confusing and complicated, and that doesn't help you achieve what you tried to do. So our motto is keep it simple, keep it customer focused, and it's something that we remind each other of every single day. And in the beginning, you know, we knew we had these problems. I would say one of the things was when Bill came on too, he was kind of charged with correcting these problems. And the great thing about our organization, and a lot of them, we're hearing stories throughout the week, is that, you know, I've seen leaders, and you guys have too, they're basically like, well, we need people, and we don't have them. And oh, by the way, we're in a budget crisis, because we were at the time. Not a crisis, but awareness, and there were holds. We couldn't hire any new positions. And when somebody left the organization, we couldn't refill their position. We had no professional development except internal sharing. So we could have just said, well, you know what? That's all we can do. But the good thing about it was, as leaders, we really felt responsible to make it a better place. Because those people we talked about were so dedicated, you know what it's like for a financial aid person who just wants to help students have a full mailbox every day and 250 emails every day they can't read? It's devastating to them. That's not a good way to treat your employees. And most importantly, and the reason why we're talking about partnerships today, is because it had to be enrollment management driven. It could not be technology driven. It had to be technology supported. But I cannot tell Bill Hampton how to be a good enrollment management professional, because I don't know. And I think in a lot of organizations, especially in higher education, there's a tendency for technology departments to try to set the direction. And I believe that's a mistake. I've also seen where they'll hear so-and-so, if it's academics, administrative, they have a problem, and all of a sudden the IT department's like, here's your solution. It's disconnected, disjointed, there's no buy-in, and it probably won't work. So really this was driven by Bill. We do challenge each other a lot. I mean, you know, I'll say like, I don't think that's gonna work, let's talk through this, or whatever the case might be. But it definitely is their project.